Alright, hey everybody, I hope you all had a great day so far. Mine's not been too bad. A little bit neon there in the webcam. Okay, so I did a little work on my internet connection, so hopefully it will be better today. We'll just go with that. But today we're going to be working some more on trying to synchronize the timers between two multiplayer clients. And the way I was doing it before is just not really a good way. Well, I mean, it would work, but the problem is when you send. Okay, so what I was thinking before is that the host would kind of just decide to start the timer and then send its time to the other player, and then the other player would start its timer and see the difference between the time that the host sent it and its current time, and then it could figure out some offset. You could still do something like this, but they'd have to have some clock that they both agreed on, and still you would have some issues with, like, if you want to have a very accurate clock, it's kind of difficult in that way. I guess it wouldn't really be an issue on phones because they have to have a very accurate clock to use, what's it called, GPS. But we're gonna use the desktop, which doesn't have that. So a better way to do it is just kind of, it doesn't have to be perfect, and this is how it works in other multiplayer games like StarCraft, for example, where you just send ping messages to the other client and then ask them to send back that same message to you, and then you can tell the difference between the timestamp in the message and your current time. That tells you about, and if you divide that in half, it tells you about the time it takes for a message to get to you, or from you to the other player, or from the player to you, and that way you can kind of offset the time between the messages you get from the other player. That's what we're gonna do now. I already have a ping. Yeah, so basically these timestamp message sender and receivers, I don't think I'm gonna need anymore. Yeah, I think I'll just delete them. There's nothing really interesting inside of it. And then this synchronized timer we won't really need either because we'll just use our actual computer's timer. Okay, yeah, so pretty much most of the work we did yesterday is kind of going in the trash, but that was okay because yesterday's stream was kind of a train wreck anyway with the internet, so. Alright, let's see. Okay, so I wanted to clean up some of these codes we don't need anymore, or some of those initializations that we don't need anymore. So we have this ping sender. Okay, so this will send the initial ping to the other player. So I guess I'll need to have a network writer because I'm going to need to send my time to the other. Or I'm going to need to send my time on this message. So let's I think I'll pull this out into another function. Oh, the timer is okay when we want to resend ping messages. Oh, yeah, I don't need to override anything, so let's do send message. Okay, so we'll use the network writer class, which pretty much just simplifies writing into a byte buffer. And we can pass in the buffer we've already set up. Okay, and then the writer will tell it to write a byte of the type, which will be this message type ping. Okay, and then we'll tell it to write in our current time, which we can get using, I actually looked this up finally. If I can find the right key. So you use this UTC now, which is just time and the Greenwich Mean Time, so no time zones. And then you want to use something called total. Okay. Well, I thought that there was something called total milliseconds. So I'm using this great page as kind of how I researched about how to do ping. So yeah, this is gamesparks.com. Okay. But what I'm mostly looking for here is how they actually calculated the time. Oh, okay, so they had to like subtract. Okay, is total milliseconds not supported anymore? Oh, it's in time span. Okay. So yeah, they subtract it from like this start time. Okay. Well, I guess let's make a helper function that will just get this, the total milliseconds of our current time. Let's see, I guess time helper. And this can just be a static class. Gosh, I can't. The keyboard's gotten offset or something. So public. This will be a long, which is really just like a 4-byte integer. So I guess we'll just call this, I don't know. It's fine. So, okay. How they did it was they got the current time now, and then they subtracted from this start date. And they got the total milliseconds. So I guess we could pick any time really, but I guess the reason you have to do that is because you need to change the date time into a time span to get that total milliseconds, which is, I guess, makes sense. It'd be kind of cool if you could just say, somehow get this to return a time span from the beginning of time, but maybe it doesn't work that way. I don't know. Okay, so minus new date. Okay, well, let's actually just have a static thing here. So private static date time. I'll just call this start, or no, let's call it like anchor time or something. I guess it doesn't need to be capitalized there. And so this would be the new date time, 1970. 1 Yeah, so January 1st, 1970. And the reason that you use that year is because a lot of operating systems start their clocks with 1970. Although it doesn't actually matter for this game. We could do whatever we wanted, but... Okay, so anyway, we have the... Now we've converted this to a time span, and I can just get the total milliseconds. If I can... Okay, that's actually a double, so that's fine with me. Okay, so what's this not like? Now cannot declare instance. Oh, right. I need to make this a static function. I guess I could change this into total seconds if I wanted. Probably... Well, ping is never going to really be very big. So I think it's better if we have it as total milliseconds, actually, so we can get better precision. Okay, so anyway, we can change this to time helper. Now. Okay, and this should write a double. Okay, it does. Okay, and now also the buffer size is the writer. What was it? I think it's at position. Yeah, position. Okay, so that should send the message. Now we've got to change the ping receiver. So this will receive a ping and then send it immediately back. So this is actually a bit more complicated now. Private void. Send Pong message, which is just a reply. Another word you might hear as echo, but I do need to set up this message type so we have the ping, Pong, and I don't know if we'll have that initialize. I guess we'll have to come back to that. Okay, so what do we need to pass here? I guess we need to pass the buffer that was received, that received this message. Okay, so we'll need a network writer because we'll need to... Well, yeah, we'll need a network writer to write the message, but we'll also need a reader to read the double out of it. Although I guess technically we could just kind of pass this buffer straight into the Pong message, but... Well, I was about to do that, but... Because all we need to really do is change the type. So I think I actually will do that. And then received length. So for int I equals 0, I less than received length. Okay, and then... Oh yeah, we don't have the message sender on this class, so I'm going to need to grab that. So data sender helper. Yeah, I always forget what I called this. So yeah, we'll just copy the data from the received buffer into the send buffer. But then we also need to change the type to a Pong. So let me see. I guess, okay, since we actually set the first byte ourselves, we don't really need to copy over the first byte because that's the message type. Okay, and then the sender, send to other player. Again, unreliable. And then the buffer size is, I guess, the received length. Okay, so now we need a Pong receiver function. Or receiver class. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and get a handle on this. And I can go ahead and copy that just to help me get started. But this Pong receiver won't actually need this data sender. Oh yeah, I need to change the namespace. I'll get a couple more namespaces. Okay, and also, before I go any further, I guess I'll leave that message in there for debugging, but we'll want to send the Pong message. Pass that through. Okay, and I guess I'll change this to receive. Let's call it handle received. Oh, right, and I need to get rid of that. Okay, so then we have the metadata about this message. Oops, I didn't want to delete that whole section. And then the buffer. So now we'll need to read the time in this buffer and then get the time at this frame. And then we can calculate the difference between them, which will be the round trip time. Okay, so for that we'll need a network reader. And I guess actually since, let's see, I don't really want to have to create this reader every time we get a ping message because that will actually generate a lot of garbage. But I'm not going to worry about it for this test project. That's just something to keep in mind for the final project later. Okay, so we'll want to read, well first we're going to have to read a byte to get, just discard the type, and then read a double. And this is the actual milliseconds, so double, start, ping, milliseconds. And then we'll have the end ping millisecond is the time helper now. Okay, so what do I want to, how do I want to store this? Well, basically the ping time is this like round trip time divided by 2. I guess let's figure that out. So round trip time is the end minus the start. And then I got the timer offset would be the round trip time divided by 2. And so this is the part that we don't really know for sure because unfortunately there's no way for this computer to measure the time it takes to send a message to the other client, because you can't really assume that the time to send a message from client A to B is the same to send from B to A. It could be different, but there's no real way to know for sure. So the best way is just to divide this by half. Sometimes they say you want to test this like multiple times and then average, and I'm trying to decide if I want to bother with that with this project or not. Let's see. Let's just add a new class for, I don't know, I guess ping results. I think it might be a good idea just to average, or at least have the possibility to average. So this will have double last results. And wait, this will actually be an array, and then we'll have double round trip time. I guess this will be the average round trip time. And the double average time offset. And again, this is like the offset. It's kind of estimating the time it takes, for the other client to send a message to us, because we'll want to offset the time we receive any messages by this amount to see when we think that event actually took place on the other computer. Okay, let's change this to last round trip times. Okay. So yeah, some class is going to need to instantiate that. Well, actually, let's just do something kind of lazy here. So number pings to average. Let's just go with 3. Okay, and then we can instantiate this last round trip times to an array. Okay, so this Pong receiver would then want to insert this into the list and then try to average. Okay, so let me see here. What am I looking for? The game phase manager. Okay, so we'll want to change this, I don't know, to, let's see, initial ping check or measure, I guess. This will just be a small bit of time before the game starts, where the clients will measure each other's round trip times to try and get a good value. Let's see, init ping measuring manager. Okay, so this is going to be a class, or parents from a class called the flow logic container, which is really just a class that lets me use the event system that I have in this game. Okay, and I need to set the namespace correctly. And then what else will this need? I guess the game state. Because it'll need to know to start whenever the game state enters into that ping measuring phase. Oh, and I'm checking my internet now, and it seems like I'm not dropping any frames, so good to see. I guess whatever I did yesterday fixed it. Okay, so I want to add a listener for a state change, that whenever the game phase changes. we'll want to call on phase change, and then whenever we enter into the ping measuring phase, we'll want to initialize the ping results somehow, and then start waiting until they get filled up. Oops, not private. If state phase state is initial ping measure, then we'll want to go through, I guess, int I equals 0. This then pings last round trip times. Well, I guess we'll just set all these to -1. And then we'll also set the averages to -1. I guess that just shows that they're not set up yet. Oh, and I forgot to get the length there. Okay, we don't really need to send any other messages, but we do need to listen. Yeah, there should be some event that's fired whenever these values are updated. So pass ping update. Let's not, maybe not that. Let's call it round trip time update. I'm probably using ping and round trip time interchangeably just out of habit, but I may regret that later, I don't know. So event exists. Time update. Okay, so on time update, we'll just want to check to make sure that we have 3 values, or however many values we're supposed to have, which we can check to see if all of these are greater than 1 or greater than 0. Okay, so we'll do that. Bool all set equals true. And then if ping's last round trip times I is less than 0. But I guess you could have a ping of 0. I don't know. That would be... well, actually that might happen since both of the clients are going to be on the same machine, but I think it'll be at least 1 frame. But just so that we don't enter into a soft lock. So anyway, if that is less than 0, then we set this to false and then break out. And then if all set, then we want to fire another event to tell the game that we're ready to move on. So public class complete. Okay. So now this class I need to actually insert this value into that list and then calculate the new average time. This will be ping results. Oops. Okay, so probably what we'll do is we'll want to throw away 1 ping result. It doesn't really matter how I insert them into the list, but I guess I'll have element 0 be the most recent. So first I need to shift everything 1 to the right. So int I equals 0, I less than pings minus 1. So ping's last round trip times I plus 1 equals I, and then I'll set find the period key. Oh yeah, I doesn't exist in this scope. Okay, so then we set 0 to the round trip time. Okay, and now I can go through and calculate the average, so we'll need I guess round trip time sum. We'll kind of just loop through them all again. Well, no, kind of. We will loop them through them all again. We just add that together. And then pings dot average round trip time equals the round trip time sum divided by last round trip times length. And then the average, this shouldn't really be average, it should just be the time offset, but this is the average round trip time divided by 2. Oh, and that should be a double, I guess. Okay. I think we're all going pretty well, or things are going well. I think it'd be nice if I had like some kind of display. I think I will do that. It'll stop compiling so I can actually click on things. Okay, so I'll just call this the ping display. Okay, and I don't need an image on it, I just need some canvas. Okay, and I guess this will just be a horizontal layout, or have a horizontal layout group. I don't want it to stretch, I just want it to be set in the top left. Okay, and so if I just add stuff to it, okay, and I want to have, oh no, no content size fitter for text. Why is it, oh, it's not parented correctly. Okay, so this will just be some label. Let's not do that. I'm trying to decide how I want to format this text. I could really just have like one text field and then I do a string format into it. Or I could have, I don't know what would actually be simpler. No, it probably doesn't really make any difference. First of all, it's hard to read, so let's add a border. Or what's it called? Outline. Okay. And then object hook so I can get a reference to it in my code. Let's call this, I guess, ping display. I guess I'll put text at the end. Okay, so let's see. I guess I'll just call this ping display text manager. Okay, and then again, this will be a flow logic container, and then also anything that needs to use something in Unity's scene. I have to have this, oops, I keep clicking the wrong thing. This IUI setup class because it lets me just tell Unity that I need to wait until the scene is loaded. So I'll need the game object registry. And then I'll need a reference to the actual text field. Okay, and then I guess I'll also need the ping info. So I don't need to get the display text there. So again, I need to pass the event queue upwards. And then something else will call this function for me when Unity is loaded. So at this point, I can just display text equals game objects find ping display text, and that will return a game object. So I need to get the text component off of it. Okay, and then I'll call refresh at this point, which I'll create this function to actually update the text. Okay, so display text dot text equals string format round trip time is whatever milliseconds, and then time offset is whatever milliseconds. So pings average round trip time and pings dot time offset. Okay, so I think this is gonna go to a whole lot of like what's the word, significant figures, so I don't need too many numbers past the decimal. So I think this, I always forget what this letter code is to like limit the number of numbers past the decimal point, or digits past the decimal point, but I think it's D, and then that just means that we'll only show the first 2 digits after the decimal. So, but I might have got that wrong, so I'll have to look it up if it is. Oh yeah, and the last thing we need to do is add a listener for the ping refresh. It exists listener, and it's called the round trip time update actually. And we'll just refresh. Okay, I guess in case there's a refresh before display text has been set, we'll need to check to make sure that's not null. Okay, so that will be fine. Okay, so now I need to initialize these new objects. So we'll resolve and bind the ping results class. Oops, it keeps giving me the wrong one. And then I'll need to initialize the Pong receiver class. I don't know. I might want to put these ping classes up in a higher priority. I'm not sure yet. And then what else? We have the initialize, yeah, ping measuring manager. And then initialize. Oh yeah, the debug. So ping display text manager. Okay, and this is a internet or interface thing, so it needs to go in the UX. And then in order to get the scene loaded callback, I have to add it to the scene loader. Okay, so that should be good. Although, let's see, this ping sender. So it sends a message every 3 seconds, but actually doesn't send it during the right phase here. This should be in the initial ping measurement. I'll probably want to have a different period for that because otherwise it's going to take at the very least 9 seconds to get the initial measurement. But I guess we'll leave it for now because I just want to test this out. Okay, so oh yeah, so some of the variables I set up here aren't actually used. I guess just that one. Oh yeah, so we might actually change the way that whole class works, but we'll just ignore that warning for now. I think this is all set up. That text is awfully small. Let's make it a bit bigger. That's too much. Okay, that'll be fine. Okay, so I'm just gonna play to make sure that everything gets initialized correctly before we actually build the second player and there is an issue. Specified format. Okay, so D2 is wrong. And also object not set to an instance. Oh, I think it's all getting confused just because of that format exception. Okay, maybe it's N2. I always forget. Because it's different in different programming languages. Might even be in. Okay, well, we'll try this. The last number I'll try is F. If that doesn't work, then I'll have to go look it up. Okay. Well, no errors at least. The time might be a little messed up, but... What did it display up here? Oh, it just said round trip time. It's kind of funny. I don't know why it didn't show the rest of the string. Maybe the length. Oh, the width here isn't wide enough. I thought that this horizontal layout group would... Oh, I need to switch these around. Okay. So now the horizontal layout group is controlling the width and height. Okay, and now it's all showing up. Okay, so let's go ahead and build the second player and test it out. Test the ping algorithm out for sure, or actually test it out. Can't talk. Just take a second. And by the way, if you have tried to build this player, if you're doing something similar and it takes forever, go into the player settings and make sure that you have the scripting backend set to mono instead of the IL2 CPP. even though the C++ is going to be faster in the future, it's really slow for testing. So it's because it takes forever to build. Okay, so we'll start the server here and start the client. So we sent a ping to the other player, but it looks like... Oh, maybe I don't have a... Oh, well, we're not getting the ping update event, so yeah, we're not getting a Pong message back. Okay, so what is going on? Yeah, we're not even getting this ping received message. It tells me that this ping receiver might be messed up somehow. Or the ping sender function. Well, it says it's sent, but... Okay, we do write the message type. Okay, let me run it the other way around with the independent client being the server. And then this will be the client and see if we get something different. No, we're still just sending pings, but we're not actually receiving them. I wonder... Let's see. So where's the class that actually receives the messages here? Well, we should have been getting an unhandled message if it's something we don't understand. Yeah, we're not having any errors. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure out why we're sending a message, but it's not being handled. Okay, I don't see, like, if there was an error, we'd still get down to this data event, so I don't think that's an issue. So it's saying that the ping is sent to the other player with unreliable, on the unreliable channel is what we want. And it used to work before I did this stuff today. So I'm pretty sure it's not the message system. Oh, you know what? This Pong receiver, I forgot to change this type, so I was overriding it. I wonder if that was the issue. Well, it definitely didn't help, but... Okay, it's still compiling. Just give it a couple seconds. Okay, so we'll start server here and the client. Okay, yeah, so we are at least receiving pings and we're sending pongs back. But I'm not getting an event that I'm not getting like a ping time update event. Yeah, so the ping sent to the other player, and then we got ping received, and then Pong sent to the other player. Alright. Alright, so first of all, did I initialize this class is what I should check. Yeah, the Pong receiver is right there. I registered it on the right type. And it sets the correct type there and then just copies everything over. Oh, I don't throw the event. That's why it's not showing up. New ping update. Or what is it? And actually, okay, this should actually go up in the tick priority because I want to queue this immediately. Oops, if I can spell it. Because I changed these values immediately, and so whenever you change a value I like for the event that signifies that they've changed to also go on the queue right away. So let's mess around with that for a bit. Okay, yeah, well, this sync timer doesn't really exist anymore. Okay, so it's gonna have to go underneath the message receiver. I guess let's just call this Pong receiver. The ping doesn't matter quite as much. And really the only reason that we want to get this right away is because it actually changes the time offset. Okay, I need to rebuild the client. Okay, I don't need to move that first window out of the way. Okay, so start server. Okay, so yeah, we're getting round trip time update. Okay, and we can see the time is changing. It's kind of interesting that the time from this client seems to be longer than the time on this client. Although now they're kind of evening out. Yeah, so it takes about 45 milliseconds to send a message between these two games. Probably it has more to do with a couple of frames passing, probably. That is one other thing. Well, okay. Let me see. I don't want like extra frames to pass on either side. That would like mess up the round trip time. So I'm trying to see here. But I guess there's no events at all until the Pong receiver, which happens at the end. So okay, so we send the ping. on this frame, and then it goes to the other player, and then, okay, say it gets it on the frame at the network message receiver. Okay, and then it actually calls the ping receiver's handling function right away. So, okay, so yeah, it doesn't wait. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like idling for a frame before it sent the new event or anything. So I think that's pretty close to how it is. Probably, what is the frame rate for this? I wonder if it's locked. Okay, yeah, so it's locked to 80 frames per second, which probably... Okay, well that's interesting. So we have a frame about every 12 milliseconds, but the round trip time was more like 45, so there still is about 25 or 30 milliseconds of overhead just going through Unity's multiplayer system. But I mean, still 50 milliseconds is still pretty good. I was surprised though. I thought it'd be lower since they're both on the same computer, but okay, I guess we'll do it the other way around just to make sure everything's still okay. And then client. Let's see, well, I noticed that the round trip time is really low at first and then it goes up. I wonder why that is. Maybe I'm doing some math wrong. Doesn't look like it's wrong. Okay. I just want to do one other thing to test out if this is working. Yeah, I had this debug inspector, so I think I'll just add the ping results here. Okay, and it's going to complain because it's not public, and also I need to make sure that it is serializable so it'll show up in the inspector. Okay. I wonder also if Unity's inspector will even serialize doubles. I hope it does. Chosen Derek, did you initialize round trip time with the buffer index 0 and then add starting with the same value? I guess I should check that. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, the pings, well, obviously nothing's going to show up yet. But yeah, I'll look into that in just a second. I wouldn't be surprised if I did something like that. Okay. And start client. So I want to... Okay, well, let's start... Oh, okay, well, that's the reason why it was low at first, is because they were all set to -1 until I get a value in each. Okay, but this average round trip time doesn't match this, does it? So yeah, I'm doing something wrong. Oh, I think I know what I did. Oh, where is it? Here. Yeah, I left this as -1 because I just copied this for loop over. Yeah, so the round trip sum starts at 0 and then... Yeah, I add them all together and multiply by the length. Okay, so the issue was I was just adding 2 instead of 3. So I'm actually glad that I figured that out now, because that would have probably caused issues later on. Okay, so let's just rebuild it and test it one more time. Once everything's loaded up. And start the client. Okay, yeah, so if I wanted to, I could make this UI smarter and have it not average when the values aren't initialized yet, but it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, so now these values are matching up. That's interesting because now the round trip time's even slower. And yeah, it's still, for some reason, going from the client to the server. Oh, well, you know what? I bet that when it loses focus, maybe the frame rate goes down. I don't know. It seems consistently higher, which is kind of interesting. Wait, are these... Okay, well, there it goes. I was going to say they look the same, but I guess they are usually the same. Okay, so this 81, it's not working correctly. It's supposed to shift one down. Looks like I messed up the something again. Okay, so I start with 0 and then I go until, I guess, and then I want to shift everything to the next index. So 1 should become 0. So I think this is correct. Oh, but wait. Okay, yeah, this is a silly mistake. So what I do is I put 0 into 1, and then on the next frame, I put 1 into 2, but 1 is now what the value was in 0, so I'm kind of just filling everything up with the first value. Okay. So I should actually go through this backwards. So I need to start at the last index. And maybe this is what you were trying to say, Chosen Derek, so I'm sorry if I misunderstood you at first, but yeah, I think this is the issue. Okay, so we start here. We actually want to make sure we don't want to loop when I equals 0, so we'll set I and then to the one below it. So I kind of just flipped everything around, but we have to go backwards so that we don't like wipe everything with the first element in the array. Okay, so let me make sure this is right now. So this length is 3, and so we start at 2. And then as long as I is greater than 0, then we subtract by 1 every time. So the first loop is I equals 2, so we set trip times 2 to 1, and then the next frame is 1 to 0, and that's it. Yeah, so 2 gets updated, 1 gets updated, and then 0 gets updated here. Okay, so I think that's correct. Code at a glance wrong, all good. I've seen this done as a circular buffer sometimes too. From 0 to length number 1 back to 0, so you never shift that around. Oh yeah, I thought about doing that too, but I thought that this would actually be more simple. But as that silly mistake just showed, you can still have issues with that too. So probably if I had like a larger amount of pings that I wanted to average, then that circular I guess algorithm would be better so that you don't have to shift the values around every time. So I might actually implement that in the final build, but we'll see. Okay, so let's just try this one more time. Got about 20 minutes left, so I'm not sure. I think we're nearing to the end of this ping project. So I guess maybe we'll actually start on trying to send movement events around, which is what I really wanted to do, but Okay, so let's see. 65 should move here. And the 80 moves down. Okay, so... Okay, I guess those were just the same by chance. 5, I'm just trying to watch to make sure these values are shifting down 1. Okay, so I think it's all working now. Yeah, and here you can see that this time does vary quite a bit, about by 20 milliseconds. So that's why it's not a good idea to only take this ping time once at the beginning of the game and then just assume that it stays the same. Because, yeah, it doesn't. Alright, so I think we're done with this. And what do I want to move on to? Okay, well I guess once we get 3 pings, then we'll move on to the movement phase so we can actually start moving the characters around. Let me see, so I need to go to phase manager and add a listener for that ping. Was it the initial ping measuring manager complete event? And so on measure complete. Let's be a little bit more descriptive there. So whenever we get that event, just to try and make sure that everything stays in lockstep, I will make sure that this is the correct phase here before moving onwards. Okay, so I guess I'll just test to make sure that works and that my input handling hasn't broken. Okay, so start, oh, it's not done loading yet. Start server and start client, so it's going to wait until it gets 3 pings. And then it should move onwards to movement phase. So it did fire the event. But did it... Game phase manager. So it reacted to the event, but I don't think it changed anything. Yeah, and I can't... Oh, I can move. Am I just missing... Okay, well it should have given me a message here that I changed the state to movement, which is what I was looking for. But... it is letting me move around, so... Okay. Yeah, and I can move this one. But obviously they don't update on the other client yet, because that's what we're going to work on now. Or at least get started on. I don't think we'll get a whole lot of work done today, because I only have about 15 minutes, but... Okay, so let me see. This local player mover. Yeah, it only moves when the phase has movement, so that was correct, but I just didn't see the message there. Okay. So I guess we'll want to send a message whenever the input changes. So how should I deal with that? actually, yeah, I think I'm gonna need to plan this out a little bit because again, this is my first time doing a real-time multiplayer, so I kind of don't want to get stuck in something like yesterday's stream where I end up having to rewrite a bit of it. So I think since the stream is almost over, I might just go ahead and call it now, and I'll plan a bit, and then tomorrow we should be able to implement the movement over the network, I hope. Yeah, so that should be more efficient. And I feel like we got a lot done today anyway, so. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming by and helping me out with this, and I do appreciate chatting too. But yeah, I think I'll feel better about spending a little time planning off screen. So tomorrow we'll come back and we'll finish the movement. But yeah, feel free to follow me here on Twitch to be notified when I go live if you want to see that. I also will post on Twitter. Besides that, I have a YouTube channel where I upload all my past videos if you want to catch up on anything. This one should be up tomorrow at around 7. I have an Instagram too where I post development screenshots and just other stuff I've been working on if you're interested in that. But yeah, just letting you know. Oh, and I do have a Discord server, so if you're interested in chatting with me, I try to stay on it throughout most of the day. So yeah, I'd love to have you. But I'll have links in chat, or you can check out the video description if you're interested. But yeah, again, thanks everybody, and I appreciate you coming out to watch me today. Yeah, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.